Why is there a thing that, we are modern people, and how does these things change?
I believe and always have that you have to self-examine based on how you're feeling.
We don't want them to suffer the way we suffered when we were growing up. So they are giving everything to the children to make their life easier.
I'm a living example. I have at least 10 to 12, 8 to 10 platonic relationships. Never touch the person, kiss the person, nothing.
When you choose to be committed in a committed relationship, whether married or not, it's a choice that you're making.
Every relationship problem that you have with your partner, your children, your team members, your parents, starts in the same place. It starts with you.
I'm Dr. Sapna Sharma. I've spent 20 years as a relationship and parenting counselor, sitting across from people who are hurting, confused, and looking for answers, but all in the wrong places.
And I'm Raju Panjwani, 2 marriages, loss, rebuilding, and I've spent years coaching senior leaders on what it actually takes to show up consciously at work and at home.
So here together we are going to have the conversations most people avoid. There's no prescription here, just conversations.
About love, about marriage, heartbreaks, and what it really takes to grow. We hope this strikes a chord with you, and we hope you join us. This is the Relationships and Marriage Podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Relationships and Marriage Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about modern roles versus traditional expectations in live-in relationships. My name is Raju Panjwani, and I'm here with Dr. Sapna Sharma. So let me start today with this question. Are modern marriages, however you define it, is it really redefining roles? I know you live in India and I'm in the US. We're both Indian origin here. Are traditional expectations simply operating in more subtle ways? I mean, just comment on that if you don't mind.
Hi, Raju. And I think, yes, we have another interesting topic here today.
About culture or what?
See, I am always going into the concepts of things.
Yes.
Because I believe nothing is what it looks on the surface. When you talk about modern marriages, I believe it's only the time which has changed. And has it become modern? I'll put a question mark and I'll leave it at it. I believe that what is a marriage? Marriage is two people believing to come together to create a family. Okay. So you want to live together at one place, and hopefully you want to have children and have a family of your own. The very basis of this is domestication. Okay, because you're leaving your free-spirited nature. That means at the end of the day, you both come home. There's a place called home, right? It means that you eat together as far as possible. That means that you nurture each other and you nurture the children if they are there. Now, all of this basically requires you to be grounded in a place. Okay. It requires you to build the home to be a place where you feel like coming back home, where you feel your soul grows at a place. It cannot be a stagnant place. It cannot be a rest house kind of a place, right? So you build the house and atmosphere in the house. Okay. That's a place where you eat healthy food. You create food. You cook, right? Because you live there, you sleep there, you grow there, you keep it clean, right? These are the basic essentials of living in any place for that matter. If you are living as a single person in a room alone, it's your choice. You can keep your bed dirty for as long as you want, right? But when it's 2 or more than 2 people in a place, as a respect towards each other, we have to maintain certain things in a certain, okay? That itself brings in all the traditional rules and expectations. Because ultimately, what are the traditional rules? You bring in money, you bring in food, you create food, you live together, you live there for each other, you take care of each other, you nurture each other, you take care of each other when you're sick and everything. So you are there for each other. What has changed? So when we say that modern marriages, we need to first understand that what exactly do we want to tell ourselves. When we are saying that, no, we are not the old time people. That's what the younger generation says. We're not the old time people. You don't understand. When the parents try to tell them something that, we are modern people, you don't understand. What exactly do we mean?
Well, I think a lot of the influence...
Let me ask that question from India to US too.
Okay, please. Yeah, so I'm going to say that obviously your perspective here is, Indian-centered or Indian live-in relationships. I'm not sure that there are too many Indian live-in relationships, but they're starting to happen. I know that.
I would say this is applicable. What I said, the basic concept is applicable to humans across
everywhere.
It doesn't matter because this is why you get married or live in, right? Because you want to be together.
Well, I guess the modern application of the word modern seems to be evolutionary, right? So where we started from caveman era, as we talked about in one of our previous episodes, to here we are in this world because there's an influence of so many things that happens at any given time, in society, right? So there are external factors. I mean, marriage itself is a creation of human beings, as are calendars, as are two careers, one career. Well, what are you really doing? Expectations do change, I think, over time and as things evolve. Whether it's right or wrong is another story. But as we said in the previous episode, if we're examining ourselves and our own behavior, are we aware of how we carry things forward? So I think in that sense, you're saying there's no difference between India and the US. And I kind of agree
Anywhere
that.
in the world. It's really basic. If you are thinking of marriage or living in with someone, you're building in a home. That's why you're doing it in the first place. Otherwise, you can still live alone, right? You take
That's
that
right.
decision because, and then when you are doing that, automatically there all these things come into it. You need to build that house into a home. You need to cook. You need to clean. You need to take care of each other. You need to be there for each other. There needs to be loyalty there, right? And you need to be there for the children, and all of these things come inherently with it. Why is there a thing that we are modern people, and how does these things change? Now, when we
Well, I
look at
think
it from the Indian perspective, I would say the few things which are there is the modern bride would like to hire as many assistants and cooks and maids at home to get the work done. It is maybe as against the older generation in the same family would not like a cook to be cooking in the house, would not like to. These changes might be there, which are there, but these are basically very Indian oriented because we do have the culture of maids and cooks and all over there, which is not there in the Western world. You anyway do it yourself. In Indian households, there is this, we also have this concept because we have this concept of joint families or extended families. You live with the in-laws or the in-laws will live with you. And they want to live in a different way and they want the younger generation to live in a different way altogether. So we do have still these things are more relevant to us. Is this topic relevant more from the Western perspective?
of extended families or
And
love.
no, basically there's the traditional expectations and the
I,
modern family.
I'd say that for the friends that I have talked to and I interact with a lot with, whether they're divorced or living together or have had one or maybe no marriages and two marriages, there's all kinds. And so it's interesting that what we understand in India about Americans was like, oh, this man changes his wives every few years. That's a very American thing to do. And I just find that completely the opposite is true in the US. Many families are really good families. They are traditionally the way you describe any decent family. They care for each other. There's a common mission. They got together because they loved each other or fell in love. But they also, as you were saying, building a home and a life together, it's really, you don't know how it's going to go because things evolve, things change. But togetherness, I think I would say, even I perceive this to be a Western thing. And I realize living here now 45, 46 years, I think people are people. And I think this so-called idea of love and being in love is very much there. Now, I've also seen people in their 50s and 60s whose parents are either, aging or, dying, whatever. I have seen an incredible number of women in particular, and even some men, take care of their parents who are like in their 80s or 90s really, really well. They may not live together, but they make sure that they're proximate so that if it's a nursing home, a senior home that they've been moved to avoid the difficulty of doing the chores and so on, because either one spouse or the other one's less healthy to take care of the other, they have no choice but to put them in a place where there is assisted living. We don't call them whatever other names, but assisted living means there is help, there is a structure, there is, somebody to take care of you on the health front. You may be otherwise very healthy, but it's hard for you to move around. So you rather just even prepare as before you go, any further or get sick, that you live in assisted living so that there is structure to your life and you feel okay. And in your family, these people I mentioned, men and women, come visit you, your parents, or they bring their grandchildren, etc., to give them that. So I think that is, to me, I don't know that's that different. It's just,
It's the only
to me,
thing is
that's
that the struggle of expectations comes when you are living together.
I
Uh,
think that's true.
but
I've also
families,
seen people
yeah,
live, move their father or mother in if they cannot afford this assisted living. Yes.
I just had this idea that the basic things, if we want to talk about, is living together. Because what I'm observing here is in India is I've seen younger boys getting married now, this generation, and you would expect that we were discussing in the last session, this women's liberation, where There's movement where women are educated and everything and all. A very interesting thing which we are observing in India is that it's been taken to another extreme where the girls are brought up with kind of a vengeance that you have to educate yourself, take good education, get a job, you have to earn, you have to be independent, not listen to anyone. The mother tells that, do you want to keep cooking like me for the rest of your life? Do you want to clean your house like me? Do you want to live like a maid like I live like? It's a very typical way the older generation mother talks to, I don't want you to live like a maid like I lived in my whole life. Now, when you are bringing up a girl like this, you're basically telling her that taking care of your own house is a bad thing,
Is
right?
that true for you, though? I mean, how were you brought up?
I think I was still the older generation where we all believed that, women have to take care of the household also. Men will also
Okay.
do. We were the sandwich generation, as they call it. We were aware that we have to take care of the household. And in fact, more towards the side that women have to take care of the household and men will go out. We belong to both that generation. But many men in my generation evolved into helping their wives, into taking care of the family and the children, and it was not the case with me when I started off with my marriage. But many men had evolved. What I see today is a very interesting phenomenon. So when we talk about modernization, I told you how the
Yeah.
women have been
Yeah.
take education. You are equal to men. You're not lesser than anyone. While all the parents are putting all their energy into bringing up their daughters like this, I
Mhm.
hardly see any parents telling their sons that this is how your wife is going to be. So you have to become equal to her in everything, right? While even I've seen in the families where there's one son and one daughter, while they would give all of this to their daughter again and again, they hardly give anything to their son on how a wife is going to be or how your life is going to be and how you have to also stand up to it. I mean, you have to be equally sharing in everything. Unfortunately, even till now, we are not seeing many families doing it in India. It would be
Mm.
happening. I mean, see, I see the change, but it's not. So currently, the generation which is getting married, I see many of them, not all of them. Okay, not all of them. In many of them, the men are still expecting that the girl is going to be the one taking care of the house. So when they're talking about marriage, either it's a love marriage or it's an arranged marriage as we have in India, many guys even don't consider asking this question, would you cook?
Huh.
Because they still believe that every woman does it. What's the big deal? Or in fact, that is another thing that they're still not asking women, do you want to have kids? Because it's taken for granted, traditional expectation that everyone has kids and a woman has to love kids because she's a woman.
Mm.
While I meet many women in my practice who absolutely do not want to have kids,
Right.
I have met women in my practice who have made this very clear before marriage that I'm not going to have kids. And the guy and his family has said, okay, no problem with us. Then they're putting all the pressure in the world for her to have the kid. And they're telling her, we thought that it was just an immature thing that you were saying. They're not even taking it seriously that this girl, a modern girl, does not want to have a child, right? So in a lot of these things in India, especially, we are seeing a lot of these things which are happening. And another thing is that the remote control of the son and the remote control of the daughter. We, the so-called modern parents, are
Yeah,
doing this.
explain that. All right, now we're going to modern because earlier you were saying there's no modern. I mean, there's modern, but it's evolutionary. But you're describing something very specific about modern.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the remote control. What do you mean by that?
So a mother would be, though it looks like the boy and the girl, they're living on their own, some other city or some other country also. Some other country
Uh-huh.
also, even if they are living. I've heard from so many young girls that, the mother-in-law calls up almost every day asking, what did you cook? And my son
Huh.
like they're doing this. Did you do this? Still
Mm.
doing it from a distance, from remote. There are also mothers who are telling the sons, how you're supposed to treat your wife, otherwise she's going to become powerful than you. And there are also the mothers of the girls who are remotely telling them, don't let him control you. Don't let him do this to you. Don't let him treat like a maid. Why are you doing the cooking? Why is he not doing it? So
Mm.
there's a lot of this, coming from the traditional thinking. I won't say expectation, traditional thinking that we are trying to still guide.
Uh-huh. I have a rather personal question. You can choose not to answer. It's a two-part question. One is, you have two daughters now grown up. Did you bring them up? What kind of way did you bring them up? Contrasting how you were brought up to this. And then B part of that is if they were sitting here, what would they say about how mom has brought me up?
Okay. So yeah, like I said that it was very clear to us that, we have to do all the household work. And we learned and but Whether we learned or not, whether we were going to the colleges and still not learning, but we knew that we had, right? I'm a very strong believer that both the men and the women, if they want to build a family, they need to take care of the household, and the people in the house.
Yep.
Right? I didn't have a son, so it was up to me to train my daughters. I can give only one example, which I did that for some period of my life, I think about a year or two, I removed all the maids and cooks that I had. And because I can't tell them to do things if I am getting everything done from someone else. No. That this
Yeah.
generation, they'll say this is not fair. Not so you have to actually do it by example, right? And then in India, we have this thing that we have lots of utensils with us, and you will use one glass and keep it for the maid. You'll take one spoon and keep it for the maid. So
Right.
I removed everything, all the extra utensils. I just kept one plate, one glass, one spoon for each one of us. And then I told them that there's no maid, there's only this much. You eat, you clean, you get the clean plate for the next time. Okay, that's it. And not only I did it, I put the rules, I followed. So you have to be really a ruthless parent if you really want to follow through anything, because children are children, right? So
Yeah.
I remember one of my daughters, we had lunch and then she did not wash because she expected someone would clean it definitely. So she just kept it there. I saw it, I didn't say anything. And at the dinner time, she said, there's no plate. And I asked them to go and get a plate. She said, there's no plate for me. I said, "Yeah, that's your plate." He said, it's dirty. I said, now, what are your choices? Okay, it's your plate. So if you want to eat dirty in it, you can still eat it because it's your plate anyway. You can wash it and eat it. You have these choices. She said, I don't want to eat. I said, fine. I finished my food. I kept the rest of the food in the fridge, and I went to sleep, which is a very difficult job for a mother to do. You're not giving food to your child and you're eating yourself. But within a couple of days, she learned that this woman can't be manipulated. So she started washing. And I had lots of rules that, if you want to use my washroom, you have to ensure that you have to leave it dry. So you have
Yeah.
to use the scraper to dry the
Sure.
floor, because we didn't have this concept of dry and wet side of the bathroom in India for a very, very long time. Just
Right.
the modern.
Right.
We still don't have, unless for people like us who have traveled abroad and we particularly take care of that. So it was very clear that if you don't leave it dry, you're not using my bathroom. And so while we were not just food, it was you have to clean your own rooms also during that period. And a lot of these things which I have made them do, they were definitely not happy about it. We would have fights about it. Everyone else's mother is not like this. Why are you like that kind of? But I think they did realize that they were much different when they left my house, when they went out to study, stayed in the boardings, and all of those things. And at one of the rare moments, my daughter had told me that, I would bring up my children as you brought us up. So, yeah, that speaks for
That's good.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying part B, they would say, I would bring up my
Yeah.
children the same way.
So yeah, definitely, because these things have made their life better. They can adjust
Mm-hmm.
anywhere in the world. They don't have any problem with doing any kind of a work that needs to be done, their own cooking, cleaning, or whatever, washing their clothes. They don't have any problem with it.
So what's the
So
perspective? I know you don't have boys, but if this was men, as you said, in the modern world, getting married in the maybe late 20s, early 30s even, how is that different in your experience from your clients and others in terms of how they operate?
So again, now, like I said, that there were other women of my generation who had started training the boys also
Mm-hmm.
towards taking care of their children. I only feel bad when young women are refusing their responsibilities under the guise of equality and modernity. That really feels bad, because I feel it's your house. You have to do it, both of you. And I'm not saying only the woman, both of you, but you have to do it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It doesn't happen on its own. It's very simple. My favorite example, which I try to give, is I often ask young couples when they come for premarital counseling. I ask them, which are the questions which you have asked each other in this. So they would say that we have talked about money, we have talked about whether we're living with their in-laws and all of those things, and a lot of things. And none of them has ever talked about that one question which I asked them. Have you discussed who's going to clean the toilet?
Is that the most important one?
Because in India, either the maid cleans it or the
Yeah.
mother cleans it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or the mother cleans it, keeps it clean for their children. They do not have this concept that the toilet has to be clean. So after that extravagant Indian wedding, then an extravagant 2 months of a foreign honeymoon, When they come back to their house, the third day when the toilet is stinking, the big question arises, I'm not a maid to clean it after you. I'm not going to do it.
You sound like
Like I said, we
high-flying
remove this.
couples
Yeah.
who have these 2-month honeymoons or whatever.
Oh, we have lots of them in India. This has become a thing, a
Mm.
Bollywood marriage and a Bollywood honeymoon where you
I think
go,
I should move to India. At least I don't have to clean my
You
toilet.
should. That definitely I would recommend, because one thing is you'll have lots of maids to do all of your stuff,
Mhm.
maids and cooks and
So there's a experience, and I don't want to, obviously, this is my friend's daughter. All is good now, but they went to school and college college in the US. They had a 5-year dating relationship,
Mhm.
and lots of fanfare. The marriage happened in Bombay, after all that was done, and they were not coming back. They were going to go live in the US, and they were just simply there for the whole show to happen for the 3-day, 4-day wedding. I was part of the wedding, and the following year I went to India again and was wishing them a happy anniversary. But before I did, I heard that they had already gotten divorced. So it lasted
Mm.
like 6 or 7 months. What I was told externally is that they never lived together in the 5-year dating period because they
Exactly.
were in college. And then they actually lived together for those 6 months, and the woman decided that this is going to work. So she decided to go back to India. So is that something you see commonly?
Yes, very unfortunately, very common. It's because the way Indian parents are bringing up their children, very typical, sentence that Indian parents say, that we don't want them to suffer the way we suffered when we were growing up. So they are giving everything to the children to make their life easier. Okay. Like I have seen even parents with average income who would just stick to an air cooler and not air conditioner, because the cost of electricity is more, the cost of air conditioner is more. Even they, when their child reaches that age where he has to appear for the board exams and all, they will put an AC in the room of the child because he's studying. The poor thing is studying, so let us make it
Mm.
easier for him, right? So when they're giving that to their children, and as the children are growing up, they don't involve them in most of the any issues that they have, even if they have financial issues or anything. They would just say, you focus on studies, rest will take care of everything. Okay, so this is how the child is studying till his graduation or post graduation. You don't worry, we'll take care of everything. They'll take huge loans from the banks to ensure that the child gets to study anywhere in the world that they want. Okay,
Right,
irrespective of how we are going to give it back, we don't know, but we still do that. And
right.
with all of that, the child is mostly absolutely unaware of the real world. Now,
Hmm.
in the earlier generation, now many parents say that, no one taught us how to behave in a relationship. But in the earlier generation, because we used to have extended families, joint families, we learned all of those things by living, you know. Like we did not have huge houses. We would have one house, one room for everyone. Then every day you have to adjust in the same number of beds and same washroom everyone had to use, and a lot of adjustments we had to do while we were growing up. There wasn't a lot of money around, so we had to share everything that we would do. So we naturally learn these essential things about relationship, that is compromise, sacrifice, adjustment, and sharing. These are the four essentials of living with any human being in the world, right? We learn those natural things. Now, the way parents are bringing up children, they're not letting them learn these things naturally. And they're not speaking about them. No one speaks about them. We have a classic trend in India that, okay, now your MBA is done, get married. Engineering is done, get married. I don't know which MBA or engineering program trains you how to be in a relationship. But until that day, they might be in relationships outside, they might be having fun and knowing each other, but they have no, they're not in touch with the realities of life at all. That is why when they start living together and have to start taking responsibility of their life as an adult, mature adult, they are not able to. And they're not able to take it emotionally also, take the stress of it emotionally. And that's why on initial few disturbances, they just want to back. And I'm not saying there are some marriages in which there's definitely a big problem where they need to separate, but not all of them. Like I
Yep.
remember there was a family who brought in a daughter to me saying that we got her married. The guy is very good. There's no problem. We don't see anything. But this girl says that I don't want to go back. It was some 3 or 4 months after marriage.
Mm.
And so I was talking with this girl and I asked her, okay, describe me what is your problem. She said, I have to do a lot of household work. I said, okay, fair. Can you tell me what kind of household work you have to do yourself? And she said that, wash like washing clothes. And I was surprised. I said, "Don't you have a washing machine?" I was surprised. And to that she replies, "Why should I be the one to load the washing machine every day?" Equality, ego, what is it? We were talking about it in the last session, right? And then definitely, yes, he should also be doing it. But that cannot be a reason for
Breaking
um,
up the marriage.
exactly. And she was not working at that particular time. The guy was working. So there's another thing with Indian girls that right from day one, they want the guy to everything exactly 50% in the house. If I'm cooking one day, you cook the another day. If I'm cleaning, irrespective of the fact whether she's sitting at home and he's going to work. There is no consideration in that thing. They're just living by that one definition that equality has to be there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll be an oppressed woman. Even if she's
Hmm.
not working at all, the husband is working full time. She would expect that I was up all night for my daughter last night, so today you have to. It doesn't matter whether you have to go to work the next day. So this is the extreme way of looking at equality or modernization, which is not making sense. That is why again it comes down to the concept of it. There is nothing, never anything wrong in systems. It's how we look at it.
I think the key thread in all of this, whatever you describe, is that unless you're self-aware, it's very difficult to do any changes because you're going by external benchmarks and external how, equality is divided in this way in every walk of life versus getting to know who you really are and forget about how you've been brought up. But of course, how you've been brought up has everything to do with how you behave, right? Unfortunately, if you want to change it, it comes from within first.
I have a very interesting aspect of this modernization again to speak about, but I have a question for you before we go ahead.
Yeah.
What does it take for someone to examine their expectations that they inherited, maybe from the family or anything, versus the ones which they actually hold? Some things are inherited, we may not believe in them also, but we still carry them forward. But there are some things that do we actually stop to think that, is this making sense? Though it is coming from somewhere, but is it making sense?
I believe and I always have that you have to self examine based on how you're feeling. If you're feeling disturbed, uneasy, there's something you're being told. So, only two things can change your life. Not your life, but change whatever you want to change, right? First, it's an external catalyst that happens. Let's say troubled marriage, divorce. Now you got to figure out why did I get divorced, right? You can dismiss it based on your nature, or you can simply say, yeah, this is how it happens. ये होता है, destiny है, ये वो है, luck है. Second is you have an internal voice that you're not listening to that's telling you something is off, something is, disturbing you, as I said earlier. Then you do something with it, or you don't. So in both cases, you can ignore it. It just happened. It's bad luck to me or whatever. Or you can actually examine to say, okay, why am I feeling uneasy? But because it's the way I've always done it, because that's how traditional was, that's the only way it begins. So either you have a catalyst or you decide you're going to
That
deal
requires a
with
lot
your.
of maturity.
Well, if it happens enough time, life is not about living the exterior world. Yes, you need your eyes, ears, and taste, and so on and so forth, your five senses, but your six senses. There are six other senses that are guiding you, but you're not paying attention to them. You know about what I'm. That's another story. But
I would like you to mention those six senses. Just mention them.
those six hidden senses are literally nothing but mental faculties. Your free will, we all have free will. God cannot change your free will. Your imagination, which is simply you imagine all the worst things that can happen to you. Memory. Memory is your entire body. Your brain is all part of the memory. And including what you eat, including what you see, it just is part of you. And we use memory, very differently. We use memory for all the validations of things that don't work. So you decide that's how it works. So you validate whatever your memory tells you, which is your experience. And then the perception is the other one because perception forms based on all these things, and most of it is unconscious. Reasoning, we use logic to kill everything. We use logic to kill our sixth one, which is the intuition. So intuition is the most powerful, which is an indicator of how you feel, because that's not one of the five senses. So you've been gifted these and these six senses as well. You have to know they exist, or you'd say they don't exist. It's all hokey, and then it's the same thing. You're not going to change anything really fundamentally.
Let me
Hmm?
tell our guests that this concept of six senses, six extra senses that
It
Raju
didn't.
was talking about is amazingly powerful concept, and he teaches that in his coaching and his training programs. And if you ever get an opportunity, it's an amazing thing to know because When I heard it for the first time from him, I feel that, just working on these 6 things can change your life. That's what I believe in.
Well,
So
thank you for that plug. I wasn't looking for
that's what
that.
I wanted you to mention it. But
No,
taking
thank you.
our topic forward, is one
Yeah.
other very important thing that I would wanted to talk about: the traditional expectations in modern marriages. How we are diversifying, in the name of modernity. And the traditional expectation is that when you are in a relationship with anyone, what the basic requirement is loyalty,
Yes.
being truthful to each other and being loyal to each other. Basic requirement to be together, right? Today, under the name of modernity, there's a lot of play going on around this,
Hmm.
and people have found out different kind of nomenclature to justify everything that they're doing. A very basic form is that, I, as a modern girl, I'm a modern girl and I would have as many guy friends as I want to have with me, even if I'm in a relationship with my husband, I'm married or in a relationship. Now, it looks okay on the face of it, right? But as a study, as a student of human being, I would say that please everyone observe this. I don't know what has become modern, but nature has certainly not become modern. The rules of nature are very simple. Nature created two separate genders in every species with one
Mm.
single intention, that was procreation, so that the species would grow. Okay. And whatever was required for this one single work was given in these two genders, right? So now procreation is a very intimate process. A male and female in any species to come that close, to become that intimate, they really need to be attracted towards each other. You can't do it
True.
otherwise, right?
Hmm.
And so to facilitate that, the nature has created man's attraction for woman and a woman's attraction for man. Whatever name you give it, he's my friend, she's my friend, she's just a friend, she's a this friend, it doesn't matter. You spend a lot of time with anyone, you share your intimate feelings with anyone, your attraction is bound to.
I
It's
have a major
plain.
issue with that.
I won't say that men and women can't be friends. There's a
Okay.
very thin line in there. And we are seeing it across the world. If you look at the statistics, which says that every one in third person, one in every 3 person is having an extramarital relationship. That's
Okay.
statistics, that's not me. I'm talking that even for a country like India. I've read that
Hmm.
somewhere. That's happening because we are not having any boundaries. We are not understanding that there's a sanctity of a basic relationship. And the sanctity
Mm.
of the basic relationship is that you need to be intimately sharing your even inner stuff. It's not just your body, but your mind and your emotions with only one person. And
All
otherwise,
right.
there has to be immense amount of maturity for them not to get into any other relationship. A major issues with marriages which is happening these days is people are finding it very, very difficult to stay with one person. See, when you live with one person, you are bound to have problems, right? It's not going to be that everything is a cakewalk, right?
Yep.
So when you have this problem, whom do you go and discuss it with? Very important point. Okay. Now, I have met so many women and women in relationships and in marriage that in the process of crying and using the shoulder of their guy friend or a girlfriend, they have ended up getting intimate with. Too many numbers now that I have to mention, right? So it's a dangerous line. It's a line, it's a boundary which has got some meaning because we are playing with nature here. Nature does not become modern. So, a sanctity of a marriage or an intimate relationship has to be protected from the definition of modernity, whatever, right? Do have friends of opposite gender, that's not a problem. I'm not that kind of a person who thinks I have friends who are of opposite genders, but it's a thin line. It's like walking on
Well,
the ice.
I'm having lots of reactions to this. I'm having two thoughts, whether I should keep it to myself or just.
No, definitely you should talk because we are discussing here. We are not, this is not a prescriptive kind of a thing. I'm just
I know.
saying that, and I'm sure that lots of our audience would also say that, this is not true. But like I always said, that this is what I am observing. This
Sure.
is what statistics say.
Well, fundamentally, you confuse nature with marriage, and I'm saying marriage is not natural. First of all, marriage is a modern principle just to keep people safe from doing all kinds of animal things, as we call it. Ultimately, you were saying nature is designed to have women, men. It's natural attraction. If it happens, then it has to go somewhere. I don't know that has to go somewhere because I'm a living example. I have at least 10 to 12, 8 to 10 platonic relationships. Never touch the person, kiss the person, nothing. But now, the degree of what you're talking about, would you be intimate with them? No, I'm not intimate with them. Can I share all the thoughts and all the feelings? Not necessarily with everybody, clearly. But there are some handpicked one or two people that I share a lot with. They're happily married, they're happily whatever in some cases, and in other cases they're not married, but it's none of my I'm not intimate with them. So now you're saying that's incredible maturity. I don't know. I just learn from who I am. So then I behave the way I feel is appropriate for societal as well as, that doesn't mean I may not be attractive, but then it doesn't mean anything. You don't, just because you have a fantasy doesn't mean you carry it out, right? In life, positive or negative, one or the other. The other side of this equation is commitment. Because if you're committed to one person and this is for societal purposes and you are, then you have no reason to go outside your marriage. I believe in that sanctity of marriage. If it's going to be something you step into, commitment. Now, marriage doesn't mean you marry, it means you're committed to a relationship. And that's enough for me to stay faithful because I'm giving to the relationship.
Absolutely.
That's my
And
experience.
I agree with everything that you said. It's just that what we see is telling us something else. And when I'm saying, if I'm saying 1 in 5%, 1 in 3% is having an extramarital relationship or are into multiple relationships, as we see among the younger generation. I
Yes.
also say that the other two are not. They are choosing not to. Definitely, that is the fact. But I hear the word modernity being used here in a very loose sense. That we are
Bruce.
modern people. That's a sad thing. That's a sad thing
Yes.
because
So
when you
you
choose
see
a
that's an
relationship,
excuse to then an
when
excuse
you
to do
choose
anything.
a relationship, when you choose to be committed in a committed relationship, whether married or not, it's a choice that you're making. So, for better or for worse, you need to work through it, everything. And every time you have a problem, you cannot just go running to someone else and find a solace there.
Yeah.
Because I always say that the person with whom you're not sharing your home and your children is always going to be good to you.
Yep.
There's not going to be any conflicts there. So you would always feel that he's better or she's better. She understands me more or he understands me more.
Yep. We should then ask one final question of you, doctor, because you're the expert here on these relationships and counseling. Can couples actually consciously design their own roles? I mean, we're kind of saying that, yes. Or are we inevitably pulled back into cultural default and because there is stress, as you were just saying, then you just default to these other things?
I guess that we have evolved to that place where we think quite a lot. Plus, we are getting married later stages where we can think more and we have developed our own choices and ways of living. We have very concrete opinions on everything. So, I believe that the better way to look at it is to choose. Like you said, it is possible to choose that in your first marriage you chose. You said that, okay, I'll take care of the baby. If you don't want to do it, I'll work. That's a choosing a role, right?
Mm.
It can be done by either one. Like I said, my basis of my every theory and concept is if I'm good at my self-worth, I will not look at these things in this way. I'm a woman, why should I take care of this thing? I'm a man, why should I sit at home? I will not get into all of these things. I genuinely love to be at home and I would enjoy if I can. That's the kind of evolution and trust me, I took up the role of taking care of everything in my marriage because somehow my husband believed that his role was only to go out and earn. So
No.
taking care of the kids, taking care of the in-laws, the 4 times cooking in the house and cleaning and all of that thing. I did it for a very long time. While I was doing it, because I was a doctor, a qualified doctor, I had friends who believed that, this is not right. They would tell me that, you are an educated woman, why are you doing this? And even after I separated, people tried to talk me into saying that, you suffered so much in the marriage. I say that I did not suffer because of all of these things. I chose to be all of that. I love to do all of that. I love that
Mhm.
feeling, that I can do so much thing for it. I used to do extra things. Like I would iron my kids' small little baby clothes, this little baby clothes, because I loved them when I had no time at all. So taking care of them, taking them to school, taking them to their activities, cooking at home and everything, at the end of the day, it gave me a lot of satisfaction. It was my choice, role, right? So there is no definition. Because I don't think marriage is 50-50. Marriage is 100-100.
Yep,
Both of us have
absolutely.
to be there 100%. So sometimes you are 25, I'm 75, and vice versa, and it can be that way. If you enter a marriage with a 50-50, you are definitely asking for trouble, because then all the time you're going to have a chart ready. My 50 is done, where is your 50? And it doesn't work like that.
So I guess I was, deemed to be a lot of things that people maybe didn't tell me, but I gathered that I was henpecked. I was there in my second marriage because I was cooking. I was the cook in the house. I was working, providing. Did I ever keep score? No, because my wife was doing whatever she did best and devoted to the family and all the, as you say. So I just think that in a committed marriage, it's 100% each. It's not 50-50. I absolutely
I
agree with that.
know these days I've started working a lot on promoting the concept of love to couples. That
Mm.
whenever you are in trouble, focus on love. Whenever you are in trouble,
Ooh, that's
bring
another subject for another time.
love. We'll talk about it later. But what do you focus on? If you focus on equality, whether there is equality or not, whether there's this thing on, unless there is a clear abuse happening in the marriage, those things
That's
we are
right.
not taking into an our purview. I'm just talking about two normal people trying to get along. If we can focus on the fact that, okay, I like this person, I want to be with him, I like this person, I want to be with her. So now let's see what needs to be done for that. It's that simple. It can be that
Yep.
simple.
Okay,
Time
well,
to
I'm
wind
going
up?
to leave a little tidbit for the audience. It's like a show, it's a movie out there recently. It's called People We Meet on Vacation. It's such a
Ah,
bad title for people to, think it's a movie. It's a modern day marriage of a young couple, a little journey of 10 years, and how they just meet on vacation once a year for a week. It's very, very interesting, and it's, a little bit of a romantic thing, but it's worth watching, and it speaks to some of the things we've just talked about today. All right. So I think we bring this to a close. Hopefully, you found some value in it. You want to say something, Sapna?
I liked our discussion. I always like to talk on these topics, and I'm very happy that we are not doing this in a prescriptive way. We're not giving any instructions. We're not telling what is right, what is wrong. We're just giving some food for thought for everyone to think in whichever direction. We are open to everything that anyone wants to think from whatever we're thinking. These are just our 2 cents that we are offering, and we would be so happy to hear from our audiences, whether you like it or not, whether you like what we are saying or not. Share with us, because as you see that me and Raju don't we agree on many things. So it's about, I just think that we want to bring out that there can be so many different aspects to everything.
Indeed. Now, I'm a framework guy, so leave people with something, but I can do that if that's what you guys want. But there are no prescriptive tools, as Sapna said. I think it's just, us sharing different experiences and from our work and all that we do. I think it would be good to hear from you so we can at least address some of those as well from our perspective. Thank you, and you can't wait to see you in the next episode. And we're not going to announce that subject. Look for the space for the next topic.
Looking forward
Take
to
care.
share more. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. If something in today's conversation stayed with you, well, sit with it. That discomfort is telling you something worth listening to.
Before thinking of who needs to hear this and who needs to change, try to introspect. We read every comment and message and reply them personally. Tell us what come up for you.
And if someone in your life actually does need to hear this, send it to them. That might be the most important thing you do today.
Subscribe so that you never miss a conversation.
See you in the next episode.